Hi, I'm Hana Morel, and I'm a researcher and consultant focusing on policy, sustainability, and heritage. I work across all sectors, both nationally and internationally, and advocate for the critical role of archaeology and heritage in achieving sustainability. So, for this video, I'm going to introduce climate mitigation and the role of heritage within that. So, it's a good idea to start with a definition. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC as it's known, climate mitigation refers to a human intervention to reduce emissions or enhance the sinks of greenhouse gases. So, human intervention would be any action that aims to reduce, limit, or halt greenhouse gas emissions, abbreviated as GHG emissions, or any action that will help increase or enhance carbon sequestration. So, GHGs include carbon, methane, nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases, water, so forth. But we tend to focus on carbon because it accounts for a huge amount of human activity emissions, and it stays in the atmosphere for a very long time, centuries to thousands of years, and it builds up over time. As for carbon sequestration, just to say, that's a process of capturing and storing carbon in a reservoir. These could be either natural or artificial carbon sinks. So examples would be forests, plants, wetlands, oceans, soils, and so forth. So what does this all have to do with heritage? Heritage isn't something abstract or nostalgic. It includes things like what we've built, how we live, our livelihoods, what we understand and value, and what we pass on as legacy, and so forth. And when we center heritage in the climate conversation, we open up huge, often overlooked spaces for alternative solutions. So let's explore a few concrete ways that heritage can support climate mitigation. First up, there are so many existing practices, whether that's local, traditional, indigenous, that living heritage, these ways of living and livelihoods that can help us explore sustainable alternatives to how we live our lives. And yes, there are heritage practices that at scale harm the environment, but but there are those that also live with the earth, not on it. So understanding heritage and the past can help leverage those opportunities as well as the challenges. And it's just about understanding it more. Um, for instance, we know that Indigenous and local knowledge systems can offer proven models of low carbon living, especially in how land and resources are managed. And these systems include things like traditional water harvesting, land and water use management, rotational grazing, agroforestry, low impact fishing, and other climate smart strategies that have been refined over centuries. And not only are these practices effective, they're also often community led, low cost, and holistic. They bring together ecological, cultural, spiritual relationships with land and nature. And so understanding, recognizing, and supporting these systems play a huge part towards our global goal for mitigation. Next up, let's talk about the built environment, which includes, of course, the places that we live, work, gather, and move through every day. Globally, buildings account for nearly 40% of energy-related carbon emissions, and cities are responsible for around 70% of CO2 emissions. Much of this comes from new construction, which many are energy and carbon intensive. But here's the opportunity. We already have millions of buildings that are already built, especially in places like the UK, where over 6 million homes predate 1919. These older buildings are part of our architectural and cultural heritage, placemaking. Um, but they also represent embodied carbon. Now, that means that all emissions from materials, transport, construction, and demolition have already been spent. And by retrofitting and reusing them, we avoid generating even more emissions through new builds. In fact, research has shown that retrofitting can be 50 to 75% less carbon intensive than demolition and reconstruction. We just need the fiscal incentives, capabilities, and capacity in place. And on top of that, many heritage buildings were designed with environmental resource efficiency in mind. So that could include using thick walls, natural ventilation, or locally sourced materials such as stone, lime, timber, and so forth. So, sure, this doesn't mean that all buildings can contribute to a more sustainable approach to our infrastructure in our cities, but it certainly is a big missed opportunity that we choose to ignore. Third up, beyond materials and emissions, heritage brings economic and social value to climate conversation. Historic buildings support local economies, sustain traditional skills and craftsmanship, and contribute to a strong sense of place and community well-being. Maintaining and adapting heritage sites provides opportunities for green jobs, especially repair, maintenance, and low carbon construction techniques. But this requires policy and investment. Something as simple as removing VAT on repairs and maintenance or expanding training for heritage trades could have a huge impact on climate outcomes and social equity. So these are just some examples, very few, of how heritage can be leveraged to help recognize traditional sustainable practices that already work, reuse and retrofit buildings that already exist, and support green jobs, skills, and local cohesion and identities, as well as building trust, meaning, and connection in the process. So if we want just and effective climate solutions, we need to move beyond only those technical fixes and embrace the full picture of a human experience. And this is just one of the ways to think about heritage as part of climate mitigation. Lots of work has already and continues to be done in this space. Thanks for your time and hope that's helped.